My name is Mary Buskell Colton. I live in Florida. My husband has Alzheimer's and was diagnosed in 2018. So that's my story right now.
Yeah, brief and to the point. Absolutely. Yeah. So, as I know we talked about beforehand, just amongst ourselves, you talked a lot about your journey getting your husband from home to a few long-term care now. So, I guess tell me a little bit about how challenging behaviors has been a part of your story, just in maybe just in general, starting at home, and then maybe in the context of long-term care.
Okay. I'm a nurse, and I really thought I understood this disease. And when my husband was diagnosed in 2018, I discovered I know nothing. Didn't know what I thought I did. Brought him home. Um, and tried to find some resources, and we had a little bit of home health, and a lot of the initial was just the forgetting and the very simple things where he couldn't make his own meals anymore. I would have to remind him to shower. I would have to remind him to do things. um, and the first night we had sundowning, that just took me over the edge.
Mm,
um, I had heard about it. I had read about it. I had been told about it. Um, but when I saw it for that first time, that reality set in that this is what this is. This is not the person that I knew.
sure.
I saw anger that I had never seen before, and throwing things down, and for I didn't really feel for my safety. Ultimately, I had to just close the door and walk away.
Mm,
I just couldn't deal with it.
sure.
And 5 minutes later, he came out of the bedroom and, what's for dinner?
Oh man.
and, and that's frustrating for me because I'm still angry at what just happened.
Sure.
But he has no idea. So I got it. We did some daycare. We did some home health. Um, and then ultimately, about a year, a little over a year ago, really, and has, like I explained to you, um, I went into a very dark place,
Mm,
mentally wise, and didn't like where that was going. I didn't like the feeling. And although I had said placement would be safety reasons for him, thinking if he was falling, if he was wandering, if he got aggressive, that would be my deciding factor. And then probably about March, April, I realized my safety, my mental safety had to be a factor.
mm,
So I did place him, and it was a place that was highly recommended by someone who knew my husband, and helped me with the home health. And she felt like this would be a really good place for him. So I took it on her word, um, and I placed him there. And it was not a good place. There were lots of med airs, and they weren't trained in dementia care like I was told they were. Um, Director changes every couple months. I think in the 6, 7 months he was there, we had 7 different directors. Um, and so I found another facility. I talked to a few people, and had him evaluated by this other facility, and they have been phenomenal. The other one, I was getting medication errors all the time, find his meds under the bed, in the closet, in his pockets. This one is phenomenal. He's actually going to some of the activities. Um, he's a little bit more relaxed there. I'm not getting daily phone calls. He's taking his medications. Really about the only thing he won't let them do is shower him. So I go once a week and shower him. Twice a week. One week, once is just for kind of a visit, and we play games, and another time that's when I get him showered. So
sure. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So I love your story because it highlights something really, really important that I think is a big misconception amongst caregivers is that your caregiving journey does not in fact end when you place them in long-term care. In
right.
fact, it is so important for you to have that quality time. And I guess that's a good segue into our workshop that we're doing tomorrow, starting day one tomorrow. So I guess share a little bit like how did you find our workshop, and I guess what drew you to it?
Okay. So, really, and I kind of have to backtrack a little bit. When my husband was diagnosed, the resources weren't, his doctor just pretty much said, and this was before we pulled him and got some other medical care for him, just, well, he has Alzheimer's. Okay, what am I supposed to do? And so there really weren't. And then, of course, 2020 hit, and we know how that went down.
Mm,
And so really a lot of the research I just had to get online and do. I had to look for are there support groups? And I really felt like I needed an in-person one, but 2020, everything in person stopped.
mm,
Um, and so I found several online, and really just linking to a couple of the support groups online, just typing in Alzheimer's or dementia leads you down a whole pathway. And so really I just stumbled on it. And I thought, oh my gosh, this sounds really good. I mean, I'm soaking everything up. I'm trying to get whatever I can. And the workshop was really beneficial to me. Kind of helped. I still think sometimes I feel like there's a little bit of a denial,
mm,
thinking, because you see those glimpses of him knowing things he didn't know yesterday. And so you start seeing those glimpses. And I think the workshop just kind of helped me solidify, yes, this is really what's going on.
mm,
This is it. This is my path. This is his journey. Um, I have to figure out a couple of the big things that made me realize, one, I'm not alone.
mm,
There's a whole lot of people dealing with this, and we can learn from each other. What did you do? What did you do? What didn't work? What did work? Um, but it also helped me see what's probably coming down the road. Um, and it helped me feel okay with my
mm.
decisions, a little bit better than I had.
Yeah.
Um, and just gave me another avenue for that support, and that I'm doing everything I can. um, there's no really cut stone, really, because you kind of have to take everything day by day. And so I think that's where the workshop helped me the most. Um,
Yeah, I love you saying, nothing's really cut like or set in stone because it's true. So I guess for those who haven't attended the workshop before, we do demonstration style stuff. And the reason why we do that is because everybody's situation is a little bit unique. And oftentimes I find that just trying to explain it isn't super helpful. Like most people need to watch
right.
it, they need to practice it. And quite frankly, I think what's there as a caregiver, if you're going to be an effective one, is you want to be really curious about your person with dementia's experience, what their current reality is. That's going to be by far and away the easiest way to keep up with the the changes, because I'm sure as you've seen, whether he was at home or in long-term care, him today may be different than him tomorrow.
Right. Well, and that's one of the things. And when I had said I walked away from when he had the sundowning, I keep that in the back of my mind. One of the days I went to see him, he really just gave me a look that indicated, I don't think he knows who I am today.
Mm,
Because normally, if he's lying in bed, he'll sit up, and when I realized that was going on, and I was getting, it's more hurtful for me, I guess, than it was for him. He didn't know who this woman was in his room.
sure.
Um, I think that's one of the things that the workshop showed was, it's okay to walk away. It's okay. Walk away, and then come back. The other thing that the workshop helped is, even though I know, like, with all of the support groups and even some of the stuff that I've seen you post online, you have to live in their reality. Your
Sure.
reality is not their reality. And that's hard. And
Yeah.
just when I thought, okay, well, I have this down, I've got this figured out, when you were doing those role playings, I thought, oh, that was me last week or something. I'm like, oh my gosh, I did that wrong. And
Yeah. And
so it's a learning, like,
that's
okay.
and that's okay. Like truly, like there's somebody who posted in our workshop community Facebook page. So another thing you get by joining the workshop is access to the workshop Facebook page. Somebody said, "I'm so ashamed. I just lost it on them." I'm like, honestly, that's a caregiver rite of passage to lose it on your person that you're caring for, especially if you're doing it 24/7. Like it's bound to happen.
Right.
Truly. Oh man. Yeah. Oh, thank you for the comments too.
You're
I see you
welcome.
guys in there, and oh my word. Yeah, Rebecca's saying is making comments about her loved one in there. I know you mentioned like there was a time your husband didn't know who you were, and she was saying like mine knows who he is. So that's what I love about our community is that it's very communicative and back and forth. Just in general, it's awesome. I love being able. That's something I love about the workshops and something I love about just our community in general. So yeah, I mean. Well, what would you say as far as like communication tips or things you've learned that's helped you the most since your husband's transition from home to long-term care?
Communication with him or communication?
You know what? With anybody.
Okay. So, I'll say with him, and I still catch myself, somebody will tell me to tell him hi or ask about him. I'll say, do you remember?
Mm,
And sometimes if I say something, for instance, I had mentioned our minister I just mentioned something about our minister, and I just thought I'm going to ask him. I said, do you know who that is? And he named her by name. And I thought, whoa, oh my, he hadn't seen her in a year. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe he named her. But it's hard not to say, do you remember?
sure,
Um, so
sure.
it's hard not to talk to him in a logical way.
Yeah.
So I think being cognizant of ways to communicate and focusing on, we have to talk about what's real now. So if I
Mm,
do want to mention my minister, I just mention her
mm,
name rather than do you remember? Or a friend always sends him a basket or a bag of 12 pieces of puzzle for toy and snacks and stuff. And she'll put a card in there and he'll open, oh, this is from church, but she writes from church,
oh,
and so yeah, that's who it's from. And I will thank her for that. But I've learned, and there also needs to be communication with the facility.
mm,
You need to get in and really communicate. um, I made up a me book for him.
mm.
um,
Oh, that's
and
smart.
that was suggested by the speech therapist a couple years ago, that talks about where he graduated. So it's just very simple stuff: where he went to high school, where he graduated from, his parents, his sister, brother, where, my name, his children's names, animals' names. So that way people can pick that up and kind of cue that to ask. So that's actually hanging on the wall in his room. But that's what it's a me book. But I find I communicate with the staff, how's he doing? Um, and really that positive communication and letting them know this is what he likes, this is what he doesn't like, and that I'm here to also help them. I appreciate them, I do, and I tell them that this new place is wonderful. um, and so they, I want to be able to have them approach me if there's a problem. I got a phone call the other night, or the other morning, I guess. He wasn't taking his morning medications, and she said, what do you want me to do? I don't want to just mark that he refused. And I said, well, I said, go in, go get a snack. He's very food driven. So I said, go get a snack, take it back in like you haven't seen him all morning. Say, oh, Mr. Colton, I have a snack for you. And while he's eating, go, oh, I got your medications too while you're eating. And she called me and she said it worked. He took them. So now she's doing, I saw her Sunday. I think it was Sunday I saw her. And that's what she's doing. If he tries to, she knows in the back of her mind. So, teaching them the tidbits of what
Yeah.
works. Um, and
Yeah, that's
they're
fabulous.
very receptive of it too. That helps too. They're
Yeah.
receptive of it.
I was going to say that is a fabulous nurse for saying that she doesn't just automatically want to refuse, that she's going the
Right.
extra mile. I mean, like honestly, who could blame them if they didn't want to go the extra mile since they're so
Yeah.
overworked? But my goodness, that is just yeah. It sounds like the place you have him is really, he's in really, really wonderful hands.
He is.
Yeah. So I guess maybe for those of us who are, uh, maybe some of us had thought to ourselves, like, I'm never going to place my loved one in long-term care, but they're getting really burnt out and they're just, they're thinking about it. Like, what are some things that you've, since you mentioned earlier that the first long-term care placement you put him in wasn't very good versus this one that's great? What would you say is the difference between the two?
One is training. I
Mm,
feel like this other place is much better trained. Now it is a difference. One was a very small one, which that's why it was recommended that he would do better when that one. This
mm.
other one is larger. They are trained. You can watch them. Even when I went in and toured the facility, you could just watch them. One, there's no odor. Watch for no
Mm,
odor. That's a big cue.
mm.
Um, but the residents were happy. They were smiling, and they had activities going on, and staff members came up and talked to me. Maintenance came up and said hi, and
Wow.
so it wasn't, so you could tell this was from the leadership all the way throughout all of the staff.
Wow.
And you could just watch them with the residents and how they interacted with them. It wasn't, do you want to come? It's, come on, let's go. We got ice cream down the hallway. Let's go. Or, you know, and so you could tell their training was dementia care training. They
Mm,
had that training. Um, and so, and Krista, you had mentioned, about not wanting to place, and that's, and I say that in a larger support group that I'm on or in. It's such an individual choice, and you really have to make that. And the guilt is way up here. I promise you, the guilt in doing that is way high. Um, but like you said, we also have to think about ourselves, what we can do. Um, and make the best. I mean, all we can do is make the best decision and hope it's for the best. And one thing it did help me when I placed my husband, I made it very clear to my children in the event, and I shared that with you, in the event that I were to get dementia, house gets sold, I go into facility. I don't want them to be my caregiver. I
yeah.
would not wish that on them.
Yeah, yeah, because it's a lot. So something that's really important to know is what you're dealing with at the beginning is going to change dramatically as your
Mhm.
time goes on. And while the challenging behaviors don't necessarily get worse over time, I think that really freaks out a lot of people when they hear that, they're sundowning, like you mentioned at the beginning, or they're refusing showers, or like you're thinking, how can that possibly get worse? I mean, it doesn't. It goes in phases uh, over time, but it's just physically it gets so much harder over time. Like they lose language, they lose a lot of physical abilities. So just physically, it becomes not a one person job,
Right,
truly.
right,
So there just is, if you are like by yourself doing this, there is, in my book, there is no shame in placing them because as you can see, you're talking about still coming once a week to help them with showers or giving tips on meds. It's like you're still caregiving. You
right,
just, it's just maybe less overwhelming
right.
when you have that extra support in your corner. And it's important because I'm sure, especially at the first place he was at, you had to advocate real hard for him.
Yep, I did. I had to advocate, and of course, I was known as a troublemaker. That was made clear to me. I complained too much, um, but he he couldn't speak for himself, and that's the other thing you have to remember is when you place them or even going to doctor's visits, they can't speak for themselves. Um, they're not going to tell the provider or whoever this is what's going on. We have to be able to speak for them. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you have to. So definitely. And I mean, there, there's still going to be challenges, especially, when there's visits or there's phone calls or things of that
right.
nature. It's just going to change and evolve over time. So, yeah, I mean, if you were, I guess, to give advice to somebody who is just maybe starting their journey or just thinking about long-term care, like what is like the main like pillar advice you would give them?
Um, don't take somebody's word for it. Even though you trust them. I mean, really, don't. If I were to recommend this place, I would hope that someone would go look. um, go tour it,
Mm.
don't take my word for it. That's the big key. This was a nurse that I took her word for it and should not have. Um,
Mm.
make sure you tour the facility, look at the facility, ask them questions, um, use all of your senses when you are touring a facility. Generally look at the residents. Are they clean? Is there an odor in the building? Are they happy? Are they just sitting there doing nothing? Um, is the staff engaging them in activities? Are the staff, even if it's a one-on-one, which is what I saw, sometimes somebody would be in, and that speaks numbers. I saw leadership out there,
Mm. Oh,
not
that's a
sitting
huge
behind.
one. That's a
It's a huge
huge
one.
one.
Not sitting behind a door, but leadership was out on the floor, talking to the residents. And so that's a huge one.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and
I'd say
so,
maybe
ask your questions and you kind of, you know, I guess it's almost like buying a house. I don't like equating that, but what do you
yeah,
like from this one? What do you don't like, so that you're narrowing things down to figure out what you want. And then also your loved one. Um,
yeah.
what are things that this facility could offer them that they might enjoy at least?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah, I know sometimes a big thing too is you would think like, oh, like the brand new shiny memory care or what have you is going to be the best because it's new, but like kind of like what you're talking about, really the staff and the leadership is make or break because I've
right.
seen brand spanking new places it be a terrible experience because it was just very undertrained staff where it was just like a revolving door
Mm-hmm.
because they just hadn't found their groove yet, or vice versa. Maybe they are stuck in their ways and there hasn't been adequate training in a long time and the culture is just off. So, yeah, I agree. Just being very observant of the people is probably like the biggest takeaway that I know I've learned from my own experience and from hearing your story. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So, my hope for all of us is we don't no matter where we are on our journey, no matter what choice we decide to do, we know that learning some great communication skills and learning how to respond to challenging dementia behaviors like sundowning, like them refusing to shower, like them accusing you of things you didn't do, like calling you a billion times, so on and so forth, uh, can be super helpful no matter where you are in your on your journey. So again, our workshop, How to Stop the Four Most Common Challenging Behaviors, is starting tomorrow. It's linked in this video. So yeah, any last thoughts before we hop off?
I don't think so. I'm looking forward to this next workshop, because even what I learn, I can share with them. Hey, this is what I learned. Let's try this and see if we can get you guys showering.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so maybe you don't have to come once a week at all.
No,
That's the
I'm
next
still
step.
gonna go. I'm still
Yeah.
gonna go, but it's nice to go and visit and play games and
Yeah.
not just being there and tasking,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Instead of being the task course, you're actually having quality time with them, which
right.
is fabulous. That's what we all want. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mary, for
Oh,
joining
you're
us.
welcome.
And
Thank you for inviting me.
yeah, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and I look forward to seeing all of us
Okay.
tomorrow. So, anyways, all right. Everybody have a great night. See you
Thank
tomorrow. Bye,
you.
guys.
Good night.